Hello, I'm SpongeBob Ross Pants. SpongeBob Ross Pants. Because I'm like Bob Ross, because I'm painting. I'm doing a painting a picture, but I'm like a cartoon character version of him, who is also a sponge, but who also has Bob in his name, so it fits in that way, in that respect. So Sponge Bob Ross. We're doing a paint. I'm painting a butt, a bum, an ass, an arse, a rear end, because it's Butt-Vember. Oh, it's Butt-Vember again. Oh, this is acrylics, but it doesn't necessarily look like acrylics. It almost looks like oils, but they're just sort of watered down a bit. A little bit more traditional than I normally paint. Most of my paintings really are just sort of me colouring in drawings that I've done, but using paint as the medium with which to colour them. Whereas this is just paint, a bit more traditionally on a canvas, a tiny little canvas that I've had laying around for years. So I figured I'd put it to use and fill it full of arse. You might even be able to see that I had to tape it down. I had to tape the canvas to the easel and tape the easel to the desk, lest it fall over just from being pushed by the brush. So that's some burnt umber mostly, and a little bit of black, and I think a little bit of raw umber seeped in there a little bit too, for that the sort of the construction lines. And I blocked in the shadows, which I will paint over, and you can see I am painting over with these fleshy flesh tones. But it's good to have the shadows blocked in, just to give you a base upon which to work. And the flesh tones are quite subtle, whereas with my more comic book style paintings, I tend to be quite harsh with flesh tone, flesh colour, and then you make it lighter. Whereas this, it's a bum, it's soft, the tones, the skin itself is a bit lighter, so I'm being a bit lighter and a bit more tender with the tones of flesh that I'm using. And being that it's on a canvas and it's very, very small, and I've added water to the acrylics, they're able to blend a little bit more than they usually might, because the acrylics aren't known for blending terribly well. But when they're sort of the kind of wet on wet-ish on a canvas, so they don't really soak in straight away, don't dry too quick, and it's all right. Many years ago, I drew some butts, and it was November, and Inktober had just happened. That was a thing, still a thing, I guess. It's sort of had its day now, really, hasn't it? But do you know what hasn't had its day? What won't age out? What won't get old and tired? Butts. Everyone loves them. I drew some butts. It happened to be November. I said, hey, I'll call it Butt-Vember, and now it's famous the world over. Everyone loves Butt-Vember, so let's Butt-Vember in the Butt-Vember, blocking in some background noise just to sort of solidify the shape of the person's body whose butt I'm drawing. A little bit messy, as all of it is. It's basically there, the shapes and the shadows, but we are caressing it, massaging it, if you like, this bottom, and making it sort of smoother and prettier as we go, as we add these details and shadows and layers of paint. Pay close attention, if you're going to do something like this, to that crevice where the cheeks meet the thighs, that the deepest, darkest crevice right there, right in the middle. because that's what's going to really define the shape and volume of the piece. Like the subtle blending from light to dark over the curvature of the piece, and you know, this reflected light on the right hand side, and you can see sort of the light versus slightly darker patches on the underwear. Those are all obviously going to help enhance the shape and form of the ass, but without all of that, the darkest recesses versus the lightest surfaces, that contrast is what's really going to give you the strength and volume of the image. Typically I draw all of my butts in ballpoint pens, not strictly always, but fairly typically. Check out Buttvember on Instagram for all of those. Yeah, they're all ballpoint butts, mostly, like 99.99999% of them. But I had this canvas and I thought it would be a nice change to ring in the new month of Buttvember with a little painting, just to kick things off. I've prepared some butt drawings already that I'll be posting, and I will continue to draw enough that I have 30. I don't know how many days November has. I think it's 30. It's probably 30. 30 is enough. Or is it? I don't know. These details, these heart details in various pinks and reds, some the right way up, some not, really do add a lot. Like if it was just white underwear, that would be cool. And this, you know, this is based on a photo. So, you know, they're going to be there regardless. But in the painting, the details of those hearts on the underwear really do add a lot to the painting. It looks like the darker ones are darker because they're in shadow, but that's more or less true to the photo in that they are various shades of pinks and reds throughout the pattern of the underwear. But regardless, they work with the painting. They do give it an extra sort of level of visual pleasality. That's a word now. I've added it into the lexicon. I'm saying it's a thing. And then we just fucking carry on. Just what the fuck does Bob Ross? I don't know. I've not actually seen any of Bob Ross's videos. I don't really care. I don't need to learn how to paint from Bob Ross. Look at me. I'm a fucking wizard. As enough as it is. I don't need. Happy little anuses. Oh, little, you know, happy mistakes turn them into happy little anuses. Trees, mountains, mountainous bum parts, and some darker paint there. Here, it's gonna look like I fucked up. Like, oh no, that shadow's too harsh. Surely you. But don't worry. Like I was saying earlier, with the wet on wet and on the canvas, you could kind of blend it in and get that soft tone. I was actually really happy with the shading on the underwear also, because you have a slight harsh line as the underwear does sort of go into the crease of the butt, but then as it goes up towards the lower back, it flattens out, but it still curves around the shapes of the body, so there is shadow and light, and I think I did quite well to capture that softness of shadow in the underwear. Again, the deep dark shadows in the perineum, is that what that's called? I don't know. In the dark bit where the vagina's hidden, that's, you know, where you're getting most of your volume or whatever. And I'm putting harsh white onto the highlights there, which very often in painting it's sort of frowned upon almost, using white and black. But however, in this instance, the harsh white works. A little bit of reflected lighting in there just to stroke that off, and